Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Hydro Innovation, Solving the Global Water Crisis. My name is Eric Schatzker. I am the editorial director at Bloomberg New Economy, and I'm delighted to see you all here at the Qatar Economic Forum. Much of this conference, as you know, has been dedicated to the fossil fuels shortage, but the world faces an even more existential crisis, and that is water. There is water, of course, just not where humanity needs it. This is due in part to population growth. It's due in part to waste. It's due in part to resource mismanagement, but increasingly it is a function of climate change. Temperatures in drier parts of the world are rising, and drought is alarming and increasingly common. The lives of billions of people and their livelihoods are at stake. And what I just described there doesn't even comprehend the other tragedy, which is water that is available but not clean enough to drink. Gentlemen, I'd like to begin by asking each of you to introduce yourselves, tell us what you do, which is to say, why you're here, and share your personal experience with and ideas for solving the global water crisis. Please keep your remarks to no more than a few short minutes so we may open the floor up to discussion once all of us understands how you and your fellow panelists see the issues before us. So I'd like to begin in order, just to make things easy, on my far left with Alexei.
Thank you very much, Eric. I'm Alexei. I'm a co-founder of Desalinator. We developed the world's first solar thermal desalination technology that works at scale and producing water for less than $1 per 1,000 liters. The water crisis is really upon us, and it's an area that has not had enough attention in the world. We believe that the future of the water crisis should be addressed through distributed applications where you can produce water locally, and we're particularly interested to look at desalination. Desalination is one of the fastest growing areas of water production in the world, but it uses a lot of fossil fuels and it uses a lot of chemicals which have an impact for our oceans. So we believe that by using solar energy and minimizing chemical usage, that not only can you provide a reliable source of water for people, for communities, for businesses, for agriculture, but you can do so in a way that's in harmony with our planet. And here in Qatar, as an example, you see a country which is abundant in sunshine, which has a beautiful coastal area, but where there's a big challenge with salt water. And we see this as an opportunity. We see it as an opportunity for Qatar and GCC countries to take a leadership role, actually, because water, and particularly innovation in water, needs to be supported. And this is really a blind spot in the way that we're addressing the water crisis globally. So we really encourage to support entrepreneurs and to support innovation in this space, which will manifest in 5, 7, 10 years from now. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Naji Skaf, and I'm with Xylem. So Xylem is a company that works with technology related to water, and our products are involved in everything that moves water, treats water, pumps it, measures it, analyzes it, and so all the moving parts in a system that brings the water from the sea to the tap. And our mission, the way we see it and what we believe in, is that access to water is a right to everyone, and our role is to ensure or to contribute in bringing water to every single individual on this planet. And so we do that by developing new technologies that can help achieve that, but also by working with public policy, with NGOs, with the United Nations frequently to see how we can provide this right to less privileged areas as well.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. We're a single family office based in New York. and Miami. We've done business in about 80 countries around the world. We have founded 7 category of world leaders, and one of them was the Pure filter for Procter & Gamble. We also created the end-of-tap filter for Brita. Our emphasis in water is point of use. We believe that the closer to your lips you clean the water, the more you eliminate waterborne diseases. We call it the last mile of water. You know, it's staggering, the contrast. Bottled water is over $200 billion in 2021. Point of use was $11 billion. We did a project in Mexico and served clean water to the worst arsenic conditions in Latin America. And 75% of the people that use our technology no longer use bottled water. When it comes to water treatment plants, we know it's a necessary part of the cycle of water. However, most of us know that of the water that goes into a water treatment plant, about 1/3 goes out into waste, 3 times more contaminated. About another third leaks out of the pipes. In some cities such as London, it's 50% leaks out of the pipes. And of the remaining third that gets to your home, only about 2% is actually used for drinking. Yet 80% of the cost of a water treatment plant is to make the water drinkable. We did a study in Saudi Arabia, backed by Lubna Oleon. We did 78 borings. We found bromide. We found salt. So we were asked to talk to the biggest contractor of water treatment plants in Saudi Arabia. And the response was, yeah, I know, we don't take the salt out very well. So people are drinking a lot of salt, and they're drinking a lot of bromide. And the next January, lo and behold, the Arab News came out and said, bromide causes cancer, and it's all over the water of the Middle East. The last mile of water, point of use. The closer to your lips you clean the water, the more you eliminate waterborne diseases, cancer, etc. Thank you.
And before you finish, Kevin, would you just mind reminding everybody your name and your company as well?
My name is Kevin McGovern, and we have a single family office, and we serve consumer technologies around the world. We've created 7 category of world leaders, and we've done business in 80 countries around the world. Thank you.
My name is Mohammed Al Sada. I do research in sustainability and water in the top of the agenda and sustainability. I chair 2 board of directors to 2 universities here in Qatar, and in my previous life I was the Minister of Energy and Industry. So one may ask, what is energy to do with water? In fact, the nexus between water, energy, and food is very well known, and organizationally in Qatar, water and power under the portfolio of energy. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Isa Al-Kuwari. I am president of Kahrama. Kahrama is the Qatar General Electricity and Water. This is the organization looking after water and power in the state of Qatar. I am working as a board member or member of the Water Resources Committee in Qatar. This committee is arranging all resources in Qatar to save water and find solutions for the scarcity of water in Qatar. We are trying our level best in Qatar to find solution suit Qatar, because the water scarcity it's an issue for the whole world, but each country has its own problem, and there is no one solution for everybody. So we are trying to tailor-made some solutions for Qatar, and Alexei came with a new solution today that we can use the solar. Yes, it's already there in the market, but I don't know if it's in the commercial scale or not. So today we have new information, so we can use it. This is one benefit of such gathering. We are trying to use each drop of water, either from natural resources such as the rain, or treated water, or industrial water, to use these drops to make a source of water for the Qatar. It's a very difficult situation in Qatar. We are trying. We have built a mega reservoirs for Qatar, which serve for 7 days if there is a stop of the desalination, which is a huge amount, and we are managing this one. But as I said, we are trying to find solutions for the scarcity of water by all means to make it zero waste of each drop of water in Qatar. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Webb, founder, CEO of AppHarvest. We went public on the NASDAQ last year. Controlled environment agriculture, we say, is really the third wave of sustainable infrastructure. I started my career 20 years ago in renewable energy. 10 years ago, Tesla goes public, moving electric vehicles forward, and today we're at the beginning of controlled environment agriculture. We must grow more food with less resources, and we can do that today with existing technologies, growing a fruit and vegetable with 90% less water than open field agriculture, getting 30 times yield per acre, and doing it in a closed loop system where we have no agricultural runoff. Was in California a couple of months ago. Salinas Valley, California is not going to be growing leafy greens in a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades. I'm from Kentucky, which in the U.S. is traditionally known as a coal mining state, and we've seen what's happened quickly with the decline of the coal industry and the uptick of renewable energy. And I meet with farmers in the southwest of the U.S. and I warn them that if you don't start to use technology and diversify the way you're growing, you're going to look like coal mining towns in the state that I grew up in. We talk about extractive industries like fossil fuels, and the environmental community, which I've been very close and involved with, is so myopic and small-minded that we don't have a luxury as humans anymore to solve just for carbon. We're on planet Earth because of water and water alone. We can survive without energy. We can't survive without water. So we must figure out how to solve this problem, and agriculture must be at the heart of the solution. 70% of the world's fresh water today is used by agriculture. So if we do not solve our usage in agriculture, it does not matter what we do with our water resource. And in the U.S., it is tragic to see what we're doing right now. The Colorado River is at record lows, Lake Mead at record lows, Lake Powell at record lows. California, the water reservoirs are down to almost 20% of what they've been. And we're not talking about it. So Eric, thank you and Bloomberg for having this panel. It's not enough. We don't talk about water enough. All we do is talk about energy, but somehow water is overlooked. So thank you, Eric, for having us here today.
Hello, I'm Cyril Courjaret. I'm the CEO for International Division of Suez. For more than 160 years, Suez has been, since the construction of the Suez Canal, by the way, Suez has been working on a key player on the environmental services. And today our activity goes from all the water cycle, the waste treatment and recycle, and the air quality. So it has 35,000 employees, and it has been present all over the world, presenting solutions in order to, I guess, 4 important matters: increase the access to fresh water, 2, preserve the water resources, 3, develop new resources, and a 4th one that I believe that is key because it changes the way we address the subject, is to promote innovative contract models and access to climate finance. And when I say to change the contract model, we have always been paid for the extra cubic meter that we have been delivering to the public or to the industry, not for the cubic meter that we have been saving at a certain point. And this is something that needs to be changed in order to be all convinced that we are moving towards the direction of preserving the resources. And as the panelists already said, more than 70% or 65-70% of the water goes to agriculture. What do we do to reuse water for agriculture? Only 2% going for potable water. What do we do in order to make the exact treatment for the exact use that it's going to be presented? And this is something that we have some solution I will be very happy to share with you today. Thank you.
Gentlemen, excellent points from all of you. Thank you for your contributions thus far. I'm really interested in having you ask questions of one another. I have a few in my back pocket and some topics that I'd like to introduce as well. But before we continue, I'd like to ask Essa to continue sharing a little bit of Qatar's experience, because while each country faces its own unique challenges, Qatar is in a privileged position of, first of all, a not so privileged position of having a water problem, but a privileged opportunity to solve the water problem given the resources available to it and the potential for demonstrating solutions at scale. So Essa, if you could continue telling us a little bit about your experience, Qatar's experience, what have you invested in, what has worked, what do you think is applicable elsewhere, perhaps elsewhere in this region or even other parts of the world on a cost-effective basis. I think we could learn a little bit from that.
Thank you. As I said, Qatar, it's sharing the whole world with the scarcity of water problem, but it's different than others, taking consideration that there is no natural resources for the water. We don't have rains, we don't have lakes, we don't have even the underground water. It's limited. But thanks God that we have gas and oil, which is giving us the power to solve this problem and find solutions. So the government realized the issue since a long time ago and invested a lot in solving this problem. But still we have the challenge. The challenge that we need to find the water, source of water for everything in Qatar, for the industrial, for residential, for commercial. At the same time, we need to save the water. And the other issue that the food security, we need to support the food security. We don't have water, but we need to support it. So that's the challenge. And what we have done, we constructed the mega reservoirs. The mega reservoirs, it's the largest in the world as a single reservoirs, artificial. And it's now serving and with its own unique challenges of circulating the water at such a huge amount, but it's working now and solve the residential part of the issue. We have another which has cost us more than $5 billion for the first stage. The second solution, which is now under study and we may go for it after the World Cup, is the injection of the aquifer itself. So this one, it will give us a solution, but it will not solve the food security. The other solution which we are now working and trying to put our effort is the using of the treated water. The treated water, it's a source of water which can be used for the many areas in the community. They don't like to use the treated water for drinking, but still we can use it for beautification, for agriculture and food especially, and for construction. And we have succeeded in that. Now we have a big portion of the fodder for the animals produced by the treated water. Most of the beautifications in Qatar, gardens, all these things are using the treated water. A big site of construction with the ashghal, they are using the treated water. So we are working hard, and the scale of this use is to be more than what is now. And inshallah soon it will cover the whole Qatar. The new ideas now is coming to find this, a solution, a cheaper solution for desalination itself. We are a peninsula and we have seawater everywhere. So if we can find a cheaper solution to produce water, it will solve our food security. So we hope that now the solar as Alex said, the solar solutions will solve the problem. But as I know, it's still not mature enough in a commercial scale. But we hope in the future it will solve such problem. The idea that we need to capture each drop of water, either from the treated water, from the rain, from the industry, to capture all these drops and make it useful. This is the only way to have a sustainable water in Qatar.
Essa, thank you. I'm going to turn to Cyril in just a moment, but before I do, Dr. Mohammed, given your experience, is there anything you'd like to add to what Essa shared with us?
Thank you very much. I think the issue of water is getting more critical worldwide and especially in our region. And I would like to emphasize the importance of the right policy for the right geography. Problems and challenges are not equal worldwide, and you need specific policies leading the strategies and plans for specific regions. For example, in our region here in the GCC, we are really water poor region. Approximately the precipitation is only 1/10 of the world average. That's an indication. We don't have in the Arab Peninsula even one single river. The climate change is said by researchers that rises twice as high as the world average in this region, with all the implications of the climate change. Water consumption per capita, especially domestically, for the domestic use, is one of the highest in the world, perhaps the highest in the world. This is ironic in a poor region of water. I know there are poorer countries. Water poverty can be higher in Sahara or in the desert of Chile, but there nobody is there. Here is vibrant cities, huge economy, and we are the source of energy impacting the whole world, and currently you can see what is happening. Water footprint of the agriculture is huge here, and as Jonathan said, we need to think differently. Maybe by now it is too luxurious to go for open field. We still the agriculture here, despite it is small, but it is dominated by open field. Greenhouses of suitable types of greenhouses probably could be a mandatory very, very soon. So this is basically beside other issues like the water losses you just mentioned, Kevin. We have some cities have more than 50% of water losses, and Isa knows very well, and he led the efforts to reduce it considerably here in Qatar, because he was able to modernize the infrastructure. Not everybody was in our position that we could modernize a huge infrastructure. The use of TECs is so crucial, especially in our region. Isa just mentioned that we need to use it, but there is limit to use it for domestic use. Still, people from cultural point of view, they're not accepting it fully. But nevertheless, it's a huge potential, and from energy point of view, it's a small fraction you need out of energy to produce the TSE. It's 1 to 70 vis-a-vis the desalination of any type. Cost is of TSE is less than 25% of the cost of desalination. So it's a huge difference. And for this, you need specific policies for specific regions. One fits all cannot work.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Cyril.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to emphasize what Dr. Issas just said about the policy that has been implemented in Qatar, and I believe that due to the, let's say, the weather condition within Qatar, a huge effort has been done towards the optimization of the existing assets on one side, and and on the other side, to go to the kind of zero discharge of wastewater into the sea by reusing 100% or almost 100% of the water. And at Suez, we are proud to be helping Karama in reducing the non-revenue water, which is a key issue, how to optimize the existing assets, and on the other side, to have designed and built the wastewater treatment plant that allow for reinjection within the region of the treated wastewater. And I believe that those two aspects are key for the preservation of the resources.
Kevin.
What most people don't realize is that we're in the healthcare business. Clean water is health. Water scarcity and water efficiency and healthcare go hand, glove, and whatever else you want to use in an analogy. When you have a point of use, and of course we advocate, we certainly think that you have to have an end-to-end solution. So good water treatment plants such as Suez, of course, very important. But as you know, a lot of water treatment plants are not very efficient. And when water treatment plants break down, whole communities do not have clean water. When point of use breaks down, a home doesn't have clean water, but everyone else does. I'm proud to tell you that we won the first bid ever against water treatment by point of use in Mexico. We serve municipalities, many municipalities in Latin America. But I want to emphasize that the water that we drink causes a lot of our health issues. I believe that the salt content in the Middle East is very much having to do with the diabetic and diabetes issue all over the Middle East. We do know, Berkeley study, that arsenic, for example, causes cancer. Hopkins study causes diabetes. Columbia study causes heart disease. What people don't realize is the metals in our water, not just our bacteria and viruses, cause all sorts of long-term health issues. Second of all, you mentioned the system of leakage, and we know that pipes leak all over the world. The United States spends over $4 billion a year putting Band-Aids on our pipe system. All we're doing is putting Band-Aids on. We're not solving the problem. The world is spending billions and billions of dollars on Band-Aids. We need solutions close to the home and close to your lips. I hear the discussion about ESG, and we were first involved with ESG with C.K. Prolid and Stu Hart, who wrote the formulative book, the change agent book, called The Fortune to be Made at the Bottom of the Pyramid. And they talked about taking care of the poor people of the world. The fact of the matter is, if one wants to contribute to ESG, I can't imagine a better contribution than getting into clean water for those who are really needy around the world. Before COVID, 80%, we used to use these statistics, 80% of emerging markets, the people in hospitals, are related to waterborne diseases. And of the millions of people who die every year, 80% are children 5 and under. We're in the healthcare business, and water is very much part of the global water healthcare system problem and issues that need to be solved by people such as on this panel. Thank you.
Alexei.
Thank you, Eric. And yes, I agree, Kevin. We are in the healthcare business, and we're also in the energy business. And particularly in this region, what we need to understand is that water is energy. They're interchangeable. And I'd like to really highlight that we're now facing a global economic downturn. And as an early stage innovator and the work that we're doing, That makes it incredibly difficult because tech companies are struggling, and that has a knock-on impact for companies like ourselves, particularly in seeking capital in this market. But what I want to highlight is a recent report by McKinsey. Water represents one of the greatest economic opportunities in the world. It's after transportation and building, water, the outlook for water investment by 2030 is $1.5 trillion, according to McKinsey. And it's really important that the investment community of this world, when looking at the volatility of tech stocks and so forth, can see that actually there's a huge opportunity for investment into innovation and to actually have very reliable services and very reliable revenues and profitability from water. So Cyril mentioned about the innovation around contracts, and we at Desolanator understood very early that we need to have a compelling financing offer for our systems. So that's why we bring to the table now water as a service. We provide our customers, whether in Qatar or whether in Namibia, the opportunity to actually engage in a long-term agreement where they just pay for the water that they use. That helps them. It gives them a reliable amount of water, and it means that we can then provide, we have then a long-term income stream, which is very interesting for the investment community. And another point I'd like to make with regard to water as energy as being interchangeable, we're seeing a lot of innovation actually in this space, particularly coming from parts of Africa. So we're looking, for example, at a project in Southern Africa, in Namibia at the moment, where the main driver is to use our ultra-pure water that we create to produce hydrogen. And when we spoke with the government there, we said, look, we're really interested to use our water to produce green hydrogen, real green hydrogen, from solar energy without the use of harmful chemicals. But why can't we also produce water from the same system for the local community as well? And that message really seems to resonate. So we like this kind of innovative approach that really looks, as you say, sir, the needs of the specific environment and to be able to benefit local communities as well as to provide a very strong business proposition. And we think that that's the way forward for corporates, for communities, and for regions and businesses in water stress around the world.
I mentioned that I have some questions I could ask of you, but I'd like to know more if there is anyone here who'd like to pose a question either to individual panelists or to the group in general.
Yeah, I think it was interesting that you mentioned the concept, and it's actually the first time I've ever heard it, which is, and I do think in my lifetime we're going to get there, open field farming will our thesis is at some point, fruits and vegetables and plants at scale will be grown in a controlled environment. And whether policy makers outlaw open field farming or mandate a certain segment of controlled environment ag, I think it's interesting. In the U.S., we have a lot of deep-seated interests that are going to fight until the day we die and lose our water to keep it the way it is. But the way we've put policy and regulation around energy, I do wonder, where do you see anywhere in the world where somebody is leading on water usage? And you know, you look at India and China, 40% of the world's population and only 10% of the world's fresh water. How are we going to create policy around water usage? But if we don't reduce agriculture, which is 70% of the consumption, you know, do we at some point say we need to cut that in half? But I don't see anyone in the world leading on this topic and creating policy to put a vision for the future of where we should go. And my question to you is, where do you see the leadership and policy initiative around the world?
Well, this is a very important question and also difficult one. We sadly that from history we learned that the world respond to a problem rather than plan for it. And I cannot recall, for example, a summit called for specifically for water to address the water, not only the current challenges, but the potential future, even bigger challenge with the growth in population and economy. This is one issue, and I think it is badly needed, to be honest with you. The second thing is probably there are a lot of research going on, but I couldn't see, for example, consolidated research. Water problem is universal. Yes, there are diverse type of problems, but it is universal. Research are not being consolidated. A global problem should be globally solved. Efforts to look at all sorts of issues and believe in research and development and give it the due regard that it can help us a lot in a consolidated manner. For example, here we have in our GCC, we have a lot of scattering research capacity, but we don't have a water institute which covers the whole range of spectrum of water challenges. The supply and demand management is, we talk about it day and night, but how much we are doing here and everywhere, addressing the techno-economic aspect of it and the use of techno-economic tools to help the supply and demand management. We need even to unify an international strict code of and standards of water saving devices. We don't have a unified water standards and codes for devices to help out. And I fully agree with you that I think it is already luxurious to go for open farming. Is just the water is wasted considerably, and how we can, for example, many countries, they're still not using the mandated crop approach. Regulations is needed. Again, a lot of waste because many crops, are overlooked while others are being grown at lower, higher cost, lower prices, and doesn't make economic sense. So yes, it has to be addressed at the very highest level and led by leaders.
Naji.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, I'd like to ask a question for Raisa in a little bit, but I'd like to build a little bit on what was said before, but maybe ask you, Raisa, about how you perceive, how you can solve for public opinion on water reuse, which is really a great opportunity to solve for water in general. But I just would like to highlight also where we are today. I mean, we are in the state of Qatar, in the GCC, which in my opinion is a laboratory of what could happen to the world in the next era if we continue, and excuse my language, if we continue to be dumb about greenhouse effects. And this is an area where you have a large portion of a prosperous population. So to your point, we're not talking about a place or a geography that does not have means or resources. And it's very interesting to see how humanity in this part of the world is solving for water. I mean, we have a very valuable resource. We have hydrocarbons, and we found a way with technology how to transform, how to do an energy conversion from hydrocarbons into clean water for the population. And this has allowed for tremendous prosperity in this region. I mean, just imagine what this region would look like without the technology that is being used to produce and distribute water. And so, when you look at desalination technology, 70% of the world desalination plants are in this part of the world, and 70% of that are in the GCC in particular. and some of the highest capita of usage of water is in this part of the world. So it's a great opportunity to continue to push the boundaries on water technology in this part of the world. I mean, I think, Alexei, you are involved in solar-powered desalination plants. I mean that is the next frontier. I mean, we've solved on how to bring water from the sea to potable water, but we still have to spend a lot of greenhouse gases to do that with the resources that we have locally. We have the technology, even though it's still in its nascent stage. But today, the bits and pieces and the components of this technology are quite mature. We know how to produce power from solar. We know how to desalinate water. We know how to transport water and measure it and treat it and analyze it. So by putting all of this together, we're able now to solve for water in a sustainable manner. And this is very important. It's a great opportunity for the world to focus on what is happening in this region and how this can solve for the rest of humanity. There are also parts of the world where the boundaries on reuse of treated water has started to happen. Singapore is a good example. I think 40% of their water usage is coming from retreated water. I just want to also highlight what Kevin said, and this is the opportunity that I see in this part of the world in particular, but globally as well. We do all this, we put all these investments to treat water and to push it through, so that at the end 2% of it is potable. Well, what happens with the other 98%, and how can we make use of that? I mean, this is a huge opportunity from an existing infrastructure. We don't need to do the things we've been doing for the last 100 years in investing in new infrastructure every time to continue to chase demand. So what can we do with this 98%, and how can we, because chemically and scientifically, this water can be treated to be potable water, and it's perfectly fine and safe and can be used. There's a public opinion issue, obviously, on that. Maybe I'm one of them. Maybe we are all, not used to the idea of drinking reused water. So maybe my question to Isa in particular, because you are at the forefront of all of this, is how do you solve for that? How do you bring the public opinion to the point where it is acceptable to drink reused water?
Okay, thank you. We are not yet convincing people to use the treated water for potable water, and I'm not see it in the near future. It's the reused water or the treated water. It's not an option. No, it's must. We need to use the water, but not for the potable in this stage. If we can use the treated water for the beautification, for the cleaning, for the construction, for the fooders and agriculture, it's in success itself. But I'm not seeing it will be flying at least in my country for potable water in the near future, because the other water is available, and they can and no need for in this stage. We don't want to go for to use the treated water for the potable water. If we can save this treated water to use for the agriculture, for the washing, cleaning, construction, it will be enough to keep the water sustainable in this stage.
Just a small point, which is interesting. I remember when we put forward this proposal of using the TEC at the very early stage, and for construction. Even for construction, there was some objection about certain buildings not to use that. So anything to do with religious activities, we shouldn't use the. So this is a fact. We should take into consideration the cultural dimension of the using TECs. However, we have ample, if you like, more than enough uses beyond, if you like, these limited domestic and drink potable and other things which are sensitive culturally.
We have only a couple of minutes left, gentlemen. I know that both Alexei and Kevin would like to say something, so please keep your remarks brief, and we'll see if there's an opportunity for someone else after you finish, and then we'll wrap up. Kevin.
Sometimes I get so really surprised when people say our priority is not providing clean water. Some people say climate change, etc. I think the statistics speak for themselves. The crisis in water is coming in 2030, where over half the globe population will have water stress and water crisis. Climate change is obviously a huge priority, but even that is even a longer span of time. So the emergency is right now. If I told you that you could cut any government, I don't care whether it's Qatar or any place, you could cut your healthcare costs by 50% by putting a device in the home of your population, which would cost you no more than $40 per home, lasting 5 years with no replaceable parts. If you could cut your healthcare costs by 50%, I think most people would say, bring it on. Well, that's exactly what point of use can do. 50% of your healthcare costs can go down because you have a healthy population and you have drinking clean water. So I urge you to look at it as a healthcare crisis and an efficiency crisis to lower your cost and create a healthy population.
Well, people will experience climate change through the water crisis around the world. They'll experience climate through water. And I agree with you, the challenge is not a technology challenge, it's a challenge of vision. And the vision of sustainable desalination, for me, is only part of the story. Our vision is to have a fully circular system, that you take the wastewater and you make salt. It's not waste, it's a resource. That technology exists today. I mean, we're building it, it's underway. But on the question of countries that are, and country policy that's affected, I lived in India for a number of years. And you look at a country such as India, the most populous country in the world, there are states there that are in extreme water stress. They're draining aquifers faster than anywhere in the world. They will experience the climate crisis through the water crisis. And I have to point to Dubai as a really good example of a place that is dealing with the water crisis very well. They don't have any water, like Qatar. It's a very difficult challenge. They're desalinating water. They're supporting entrepreneurs like us. We work already with the Dubai government, and they're supporting innovation. And if you talk about leakages, Kevin mentioned about the leakages in a place like London. Over 40% leakages in London of water. In Dubai, less than 1%. So I think we really need to look to these examples, and hopefully countries like India can also take leadership from these examples as well.
Well, if I may summarize some, but not all of the things that we've learned today, water is energy, water is food, and vice versa. Water is health. We may have to give up on the idea of open field farming of fruits and vegetables. There's a huge opportunity, an investment opportunity in water, but there's also a desperate need for capital to spur innovation. Not all water is equal. Treated but not potable water has enormous potential for reuse. This issue needs more of the world's attention before the crisis gets out of control and it's too late. And of course, Qatar is a laboratory for the world. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for an excellent and informative and inspiring session.